Hello everyone! You alright? Yes, you look alright, fair play. Been doing the most of this sunshine, I'm sure. Yes, it's me, Osian, here once again in my story corner, ready to give you another quick little bedtime story. And this one is actually quite a special story because on my travels, just before all this lockdown business happened, I met a very curious cat indeed. And why is it so curious, I hear you ask? Well, it's because it's a cat that has travelled all across the world. Yeah, I know, how amazing would that be? As in, it's amazing if you get to go on holiday, but as a cat getting to go on holiday, that must be amazing. And I got talking to this cat, and it actually turns out that he had put his adventure into a book. And I've got the book just here. I managed to find it. It's called Pussycat, Pussycat, Where Have You Been? I've been to Rome. And guess what I've seen? So the cat told this story to Russell Punter and Dan Taylor. And so they decided to write it down and draw all of the pussycat's adventures. And I thought, seeing as it's here and I've heard the story myself, that would be an excellent story to share with you at home. Would you like to hear it? I thought so. But what do we do before we start hearing any sort of story in here? That's right. I ask you first, are you listening? Are you ready for a story? Yes, all right. Can I see those listening ears, please? There we go. All right then. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Pussycat, pussycat, where have you been? I've been to Rome. And guess what I've seen? Pussycat, pussycat, where have you been? I've been to Rome. And guess what I've seen? People called Romans built Rome long ago. You'll see their old buildings wherever you go. This must be one of them here. It must be very old. There's a whole chunk of it missing. And can you see pussycat here? Now this is something that a lot of people in Italy use. Because I should probably check that first. Do you know where Rome is? Well, you do now. It's the capital of Italy. And that's why, can you see here, the cat is wearing a t-shirt that's the colour of... Where do you think that flag is? Which flag is that? That's right, Italy. Oh, top marks. You've been listening very well in geography, haven't you? But no, lots of Italians use these little scooters, these mopeds, to get around town and to find some of these old buildings. I wonder if we'll get to learn about this one. Oh, I think we're inside. Gladiators fought in the huge Colosseum. Hundreds of Romans came here just to see them. There we are, so they were all fighting in there. You can see the cat just imagining all those gladiatorial bouts, to use big fancy words that even I don't necessarily understand. Sometimes wild animals filled the arenas. There were panthers and lions, wild boar and hyena. Can you see them all there? Chasing the poor gladiator. Well, I hope somebody doesn't end up as somebody's lunch. Ooh. It would be an amazing place to see, isn't it? Because we have buildings very similar to that in Wales. Not quite the Colosseum, but buildings that are hundreds and thousands of years old. Like old castles and old ruins. When you get a chance to go and see them, I would highly recommend it. At the Circus Maximus chariot races, riders and horses were put through their paces. this strip of land here was called the circus. Not the circus that you or I know, with the big top and the clowns and acrobats, but they were chariot races. They were a little bit like Formula One races, but of course they didn't have engines, so they used horses and carts and chariots. The charioteers whizzed around and around. When the racing was over, the winner was crowned. Can you see there? It's not the usual crown that we know either, is it? It's not one of those gold pointy ones that kings and queens wear. No, that one is called a laurel wreath. It's made out of twigs. It's all very, very fancy. The rulers of Rome came to meet at the Forum. You can still see the ruins. I went to explore them. Speeches were made here when battles were won. And at Trajan's market, big business was done. Can you see there? That's how it looks nowadays. So it looks a little bit, run down. What is that, ruin? Because this was made thousands of years ago. Hundreds even. But you can see there, Pussycat can work out where the speeches were made at the Forum and where the market was held down there. Have you ever been to an outdoor market? Yeah. Well, back in the old days, you wouldn't necessarily have shops like we have now, so you wouldn't go to the supermarket for all your food. Everything would be sold at an outdoor market, and it would be open all day, every day. You needed something, you would go to that market. It's really something. It really, really is something. Here's another building. Il Vittoriano was built for a king. The kingdom of Italy started with him. So can you see the name there? Who is our king? That's right. King Victor Emmanuel II. I wonder who Victor Emmanuel I was. Something for us to look up, I'm sure. What an impressive building. Wouldn't you agree? The Quirinale Palace is the president's home. It has grand rooms to visit and gardens to roam. Rome, like Rome. Yes, so nowadays, Italy is run by a president, not by a king. We have a prime minister, and then we have the Queen Elizabeth II. But at the moment, Italy is run by a president. He gets to live in a big, fancy palace with pictures on the roofs, on the walls, around the ceiling, everywhere, and the fanciest gardens. I'd love to go there one day. Would you? It'll be nice once everything's done and dusted. We can all go on our holidays again. At the fine Trevi fountain, so some people say, if you toss in a coin, then you'll come back one day. But look at that fountain. Looks more like a lake, doesn't it? Woo! But I think somebody's tossed a coin in the fountain. Can you see who? Yes, there we are, see? Our friend the pussycat has tossed in a little coin. Somebody's keen to come back. Oh, this is clever. Let's do it like that. Climb the steep Spanish steps and they'll take you up high. Wait, Spanish steps? But we're in Italy. Explain. They're named after an embassy once found nearby. Oh, I see. So there were representatives from Spain who had their own little building in Italy. And it must be close to the Spanish steps, just here. Tell you what, if I do like that, we can get the whole picture in, and then you'll just have to tilt your head like that. But they look very impressive, don't they? The Pantheon Temple is a highlight of Rome. Bright sunshine pours in through a hole in the dome. Ah, so this is a really, really ancient building again. So much so that, of course, it was before there was any sort of electric light. So that's why they've got a huge hole in the top so that people can see what's going on inside. That's really clever of the builders, don't you think? It'd take me ages to do that. And that's just by making a hole in the top of a cup. The Piazza Navona has cafes to try. The Fountain of Four Rivers trickles nearby. There we are. He stops off for an Italian classic. Ice cream. Nom, 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 nom. Oh, and he's gone for a very Italian flavour. Can you see the flavours of ice cream he has? Vanilla, chocolate and strawberry. And they call that a Neapolitan ice cream. And Neapolitan usually is used for things that come from Italy. I'm not sure why on that bit. We'll have to find that out later. But again, some wonderful landmarks there, aren't there? Do you look out for landmarks when you go on holiday? I always do. But that's mostly because I'm very good at getting lost when I'm on holiday. Another impressive building here. Castel Sant'Angelo was used during wars. Popes had their apartments behind its strong doors. Oh, it must be some sort of fortress then. You see? It's a big building and no mistake, isn't it? And such an interesting colour as well. Oh. The Vatican museums hold great works of art. The hushed Sistine Chapel is the most famous part. There are scenes from the Bible all over the ceiling. With so much to look at, it left my head reeling. Look at it. So the Sistine Chapel was painted by a very, 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 very famous artist called Michelangelo. And he worked almost by himself on this whole chapel. And it's not like your chapel at home. It's not a little teeny tiny one like that. It's huge. And every available bit of it, even the ceiling, is painted with the most fabulous frescoes. Or big paintings, really. And it is glorious. One of the wonders of the modern world, I would say. Certainly. I think it might actually be one of the wonders as well. If you ever get the chance to see them, absolutely go for it. I hope to have it one day. St. Peter's Basilica stands in a square. I followed the crowds who were gathering there. They looked up at St. Peter's and waited in hope. Their wish was soon granted when out came the Pope. So the Pope, I don't know if you know the Pope. I don't know the Pope personally, but I do know that the Pope is the head of the Catholic Church. So he's one of the most important people in Catholicism, which is a type of Christianity. So you have hundreds of thousands of people gather in St. Peter's Basilica Square. And some might call Vatican City, which is actually slightly apart from Rome itself. It's its own little city. It's very strange. But there we are. Can you see our little friend the pussycat? Yes, there he is. I think he managed to see the Pope as well. Whew, you packed a lot in there before you came home. I had such a good time. There's no place like Rome. And as you can see, my friends, that is the end of our story. But there's this extra little page that shows you the actual route that the pussycat took to see all of those different sights. So maybe if you had this book, you'd be able to go on that same tour. And it says a little bit about the original nursery rhyme, because Pussycat, Pussycat, Where Have You Been is an original English rhyme, apparently, which was first published in 1805. If you think, we are 15 years away from 2005, and this was another 200 years before that. And we've got a little bit extra, so let's do that, shall we? Pussycat, Pussycat, where have you been? I've been to London to look at the Queen. Pussycat, Pussycat, what did you there? I frightened a little mouse under her chair. Well, this little pussycat's ancestor was a little bit smaller in his outlook, wasn't he? But then again, it's a good idea to keep mice away from the Queen. And that, my friends, is the end of our story today. Did you enjoy it? Yes, I really enjoyed it as well. I love going on my holidays. Do you? Yeah? Maybe just before you go to bed, maybe you can have a word with Mum and Dad and think about all the best places you've been on holiday. Maybe you went down the caravan one day, or maybe you've been to Disneyland, or maybe you've been to Scotland or Ireland, or maybe even further. There are so many places you can go. Maybe when you get a chance, you should all get together, Mum, Dad, your brothers, your sisters, your cat, your dog, your budgie, your jellyfish, and think about where you'd like to go on holiday next. You know, where would you like to go and see? Maybe even start planning it, so then you can find all those little bits and pieces you'd like to see. But, as we say, that is the end of this week's story, so I'll have to go look for other stories to bring to the story corner here, or maybe another story will just come wandering down the road to come and see me. But we'll soon find out, won't we? But until then, I think it's bedtime now, isn't it? It certainly is for me, anyway. So, I'll find my good friend the blanket. A lovely little blanket. And I will wish you all good night. Hasta.